Show what happens when women just desperately focus on having kids and not thinking about love or a family in general, which is pretty common, especially amongst people my age. And so I show like a very exaggerated way of portraying this kind of feeling with a 70-year-old woman and two little girls. The original idea came like 10 years ago. The idea of showing a woman manipulating a kid as if she was a doll. The idea kept growing and it became what the movie is. Yeah, well, what we tried to do with the characters, since I mean it's average women, we're not talking about serial killers or superheroes, was to show good and evil side. Yeah, because Anne is not just lonely, she becomes jealous and she feels she's having a second chance. With Barbara was to portray her as a victim as well, by having her facing Alice, who's more evil than she is. And her neighbor, she's like a bad mother, but in the end she wants to protect her child. Barbara's daughter, she wants to protect her child, but at the end she becomes an evil person. Well, I had a lot of responsibility because she had not been on screen as a lead character for 20 years. So I felt like I had a huge privilege. But after the first days, she became basically Anne. So it was just trying to do the best movie possible. That you have to make fun of them. Because it's like with beautiful women, they're used to many compliments. So if you really want to really talk to them, you have to go the opposite way. Yeah, well, I grew up watching those movies when I was a kid, so of course they gave me a huge imprint, and that's what happened. I have to say I'm a big fan of American horror movies, so and I used all these scream queens from those movies. So maybe it's a balance between the two continents. No, it's not happening. It's happening here, it's happening in France, especially in France, in the UK, and also Netherlands, Germany, but it's not happening in Italy. There's no real industry, because otherwise we would make movies in English, not in a dead language like Italian. Unless we have great ideas, like for example Rec or Martyrs inside. So it's such a good idea, such a great concept, that even if you make it in Spanish or in French, it's gonna work internationally just the same. Because all the movies you mentioned were made because of directors invested a lot of energy and often a lot of money in their own projects. We don't have producers. Because every time there's an American movie that gets released, it makes a lot of money. The problem is people don't trust Italian genre movies because they've been betrayed many times. Because when they make big budget movies, big genre movies, they're produced by TV, so they don't even show people dying. They're not daring, they're not provocative, they're not interesting. Well, there's only two types of movie that are made in Italy, basically. Comedies and author movies. And there's some comedies that could be considered industry because they're made each year. There's also sequels and they make money. Il cine d'auteur is made by authors who want to give a meaning to their useless lives, so they make boring movies pretending they're clever. And there's people who want to see those boring movies because they think if they go there, then they are clever. So it's like an intellectual of self-fulfillment pleasure, but it's not the movies. I'm finishing a movie that's made of 100 small parodies. It's called Spoof, and I linked all the parodies together, so they are now one single feature, and I'm trying to see if there's a market for a weird product like that. Yeah, it's 100 movies, and they make fun of big movies like James Bond, Rocky, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 8 years. Yeah, takes so much time. That's why I want to leave, because I cannot live my entire life like this. I'm gonna die one day, so I want to do more movies before I die.